Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, you're going to meet a returning guest, Mark Herrera. He is a world-renowned security expert. His incredible journey just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, I think you'll agree with me. It's become a much more dangerous world just in the last couple of years. I mean, rooftop threats, we weren't thinking about that 2 years ago. And now everybody is starting to look at, are we protected against the violence that could happen from a sniper on a rooftop? To talk about that today, Mark Herrera, a good friend. He's the president and chief security strategist for Global Awareness Professionals. Thanks for coming on the show.
I'm honored. It's truly a pleasure, Jeff.
Well, you and I have known each other for 2 decades, and you've done countless interviews, and thank you for making me look good to all of my friends in the media. But let's start with that opening statement. In the last 2 years, nobody thought about rooftops.
No one did, Jeff, but you got to think it's so critical and so important that we need to start thinking more like the threat. As scary as that may sound with all the trainings that I've rolled out for the entire industry, and from a global perspective, we always talk about think like the threat so that you can mitigate that risk, right? And you always find actionable ways to respond to those conditions, and you train teams on how to do that.
Yes.
So if you can think like the threat, you can literally subconsciously exploit an environment to make it very highly vulnerable from a success rate from the perspective of a threat.
Yes.
Now you find ways to counter that. And guess what? You are now building what I call the hazard library, because you're inoculating yourself through mental preparation, visualization on how to counter everything that you visualize that a threat would do to exploit an event.
Well, I think about 9/11. I mean, the day before 9/11, we could all just race onto the airline, 5 minutes before the flight, and then September 11th changed everything. So we're constantly having to adapt.
We are. There's an ever-evolving threat landscape out there that, as 9/11 presented itself, we learned a lot from 9/11. But at the same time, it did not stop. The threat continues to evolve based on the current climate. And we have to anticipate that it's not going to get any better anytime soon. We just have to prepare teams and people. And the number one asset, which I always say, is people to protect against the evolving threats, being able to identify them and being able to find ways collectively to mitigate that. And it's an all-inclusive, all-threat, all-hazard approach to risk mitigation.
Okay, share a little about your journey, because you've been doing this for three plus decades. I mean, you look like you're 23, so I don't know how that works. But,
I'll pay you later, Jeff.
So 3 decades of training.
3 decades of training, yes. I guess one day somebody had asked me, they said, why are you so passionate in how you deliver this training? Because it sticks. And I said, well, here's the thing. If I can't get up and train and teach you on the things that are creating havoc in the world that we live in and giving you those tools to mitigate the risk, then I'm not doing a good job. And I said, but I've got to deliver it in such a way that you're able to take that back and actually apply it. That's critical. What drives me is I've been involved in at least 3 very hostile situations through the course of my career. Me personally, I don't want anyone to have to endure those types of encounters. So that is the driving force behind me saying, I've got to get out there and I've got to make sure that I give everyone the tools to identify the hazards, identify the risk, use all available resources to train these folks on how to get fully trained and engaged to mitigate.
and you've done hundreds and hundreds of interviews. I found a video. We're going to put this up on the screen. This is you talking to Fox News. I think this is on the eve of the inauguration, and you were talking about crowd control for Trump. Talk about how you educate people through the media.
I just want to say, first of all, Jeff, thank you so much, because the media is such a valuable resource. When I go out and I do these live trainings within all the different facilities and organizations, we always invite the media, because that is such a valuable resource to get information out there to help inform the public on how to best prepare and secure, right? We want to prepare, plan, respond, and recover to these conditions. So the news media has been such a valuable asset for me in getting that information out there. And it's really gone through you, Jeff. You have been the conduit.
Thank you.
To helping me deliver at such a high level to make sure that they understand the importance of the news media exposure. And with over 700 news briefs, thanks to you, Jeff, I can't tell you how much information I've been able to push out there that says, here's what we need to do given those different types of situations that we're encountering.
Let's talk about the danger of copycats, because, I think about the Trump assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, and then I think about Charlie Kirk, and then I think about the ICE shootings recently on rooftops. Every time something like this happens, they're writing a playbook for the next disturbed person.
100%. There are lessons learned from all the situations that have occurred, all these rooftop shootings that have taken place. I've known this for a decade, 2 decades ago, right? The thing about it is the playbook has already been written, right? But the playbook is always going to be exploited. We're talking about pre-operational threat surveillance. That happens on a daily basis. When I go out on that train, I speak very candidly about how there's individuals out there, homegrown violent extremists, that are exploiting your facility day to day. So the playbook has been out there. If we're conducting our proper sweeps, if we're conducting our proper physical security measures and our access control points, most importantly, you have all of your teams collectively coordinating and collaborating.
Yes.
You're going to be able to have what we call a unified incident command system in place that's going to be able to handle any and all types of risks, which, in my opinion, Jeff, these rooftop shootings could and should have been prevented.
Well, and the story with ICE is still developing, but from everything that we're hearing right now, he was a bad shot. He was not intending to shoot immigrants. He was trying to shoot ICE agents, and he was a bad shot. A great sniper could shoot from a mile away, can't they?
Without a doubt, absolutely. And that's the thing, is all it takes is one person to get lucky, right? And we know that that's happened, here in the recent past. But it doesn't take much to put somebody behind. A good example of that is the Harvest 91. I'll give you that as an example. This individual was on the 32nd, 33rd floor. He was able to figure out trajectory, windage. He was able to take a weapon and really hone in on his target, and he did. So it doesn't take a lot to do research and be able to do that. The thing that we have to do is we have to prepare teams for the things that could ultimately affect those environments and those events. That's critical.
Yes. You've done thousands of trainings. We got some video that we found on the web, and I want you to just talk about what it's like when you're training audiences and what kinds of people are in your audience.
I tell you what, Jeff, it is such an honor and a blessing to be able to get out in front of the entire industry, and even with the upcoming training that's coming up in Boston and Spokane and their community-wide training. It actually evolved where I did a training here for the Colwell Center, and it just morphed into training your sports league staff and all other venues globally. But the one thing, what goes into it is what's really interesting is that it's a community-wide driven event. So basically the venue, the facility will bring me in to actually conduct the training. And it all started with a venue executive by the name of Karen Totaro. She's amazing. But what she did was she hosted a community-wide training, because let's think about this. If you have crisis, economic impact doesn't just affect the venue, It affects any and everyone, hotel, lodging, your service contractors, anyone in the event industry, and not just within your local geographical area,
Yes.
but globally. So they would host the training. They would send out either a registration link and invite others to attend. That actually offset a lot of the training costs unless they in-kind it. In our industry, a lot are in-kinding the training just for the sake of preparing the entire world for the
Yes.
safety and security risks that are plaguing us. And of course, they would be the leading driver of that safety and security initiative. And collectively, we would also invite folks like yourself, Jeff, to really highlight the training, the news media.
Do you think most outdoors events are going to move indoors? So I think about the Charlie Kirk assassination. That campus was not prepared for that, and they're bringing in, polarizing voices all the time. And so my company has a relationship with Tarleton State University, and I called up the president and said, "Are you guys prepared for this?" And no campus is prepared for that kind of threat.
That is correct, Jeff. There is no guarantee, first of all, to zero risk. You're going to inherit that risk as soon as you walk out your front door. But what we can do is a better job in identifying the type of activity or event that's going to take place and being able to set up your security posture to really be able to manage that particular event. And if it means enhancing the layers of security, then you have to take into consideration, should we have this event indoor or should we have it outdoor? And keep in mind that just with this most recent incident, outdoor at a university, as politically fueled and motivated as this event was, it inherently had a high risk factor attached to it. So would it make sense to have it indoors? Absolutely. We have to know that indoors, you're a lot more secure, but there's still no guarantees. Outdoors, it's open air. So it's very highly porous, right?
Yes.
So you have to basically integrate all of your security details in your teams. They have to know and understand their roles and responsibility, but there has to be good, solid communication amongst those teams, all of the teams, and pushing buffer zones out. That's critical. Running your sweeps, but training teams on how to understand behavioral patterns that are not conducive to the environment, and then training them to how to interject, diffuse, and remove and not trigger a bad situation.
Mark, we've got about 2 minutes left. I know you do training around the globe. What kinds of organizations and companies need to bring you in?
Well, I'll tell you what, from a security perspective, I've trained in just about every imaginable organization, from corporate America to entertainment venues, currently visiting with Live Nation. There's really any organization just received a request for the Mavericks team and their staff. So any organization or team, based on the training that we have now through GAP, will be able to apply that, whether it's building your resilient security culture, whether it's just predictive behavioral profiling, whether it's active threat, active shooter preparedness, or whether it's leadership, team building, right? That's critical. If you don't have the right leadership, and granted, we know that there's leadership out there that's pushing agenda. We get that. That weakens your security posture. So it's very critical and so important that you have the right leadership teams in place to manage your security culture with a bottom to top approach. So we would plug that into any entity and any organization globally.
And they can hire you to just be a second pair of eyes, just kind of walk through a venue or walk through, a company and see what the threats are.
Yeah, Jeff, one of the things that I'm doing now is heavy on auditing, running penetration tests, or red teaming, right? So identifying what the teams, where the gaps are and how we can close those gaps, but at the same time, identify what teams are doing right as well.
Outstanding. You've been an amazing guest. We're going to leave you with the website, which is gapglobaltraining.com. The great Mark Herrera. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Jeff.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.